なんて勉強しても意味がない。5年前、高校の試験期間中に私は何度もそう言われました。それでも私は日本語の勉強をやめませんでした。結局私は医学部にも合格し、日本語の勉強も続けました。今では大学で日本語のコースを教え、今年の12月には JLPT-N2 の試験を受けます。今日は私がゼロから日本語を話せるようになるまでの5年間の物語をお話しします。I was 15 when I made what most people thought was a terrible decision. Instead of spending every spare minute focusing on the exams that would get me into college, I decided to learn one of the hardest languages in the world. It wasn't because I wanted to move to Japan or because I needed it in my studies. I just had one simple goal. I wanted to watch anime without subtitles. It might sound ridiculous to some people, but that decision actually ended up changing the next 5 years of my life. Like most beginners, I had absolutely no idea where to start from, so I did what everyone does. I opened Google. That was actually such a huge shock for me since I found out that Japanese does not only have 1 or 2 writing systems, it actually has 3, which add hiragana, katakana, and kanji. So the first problem that I met was basically learning how to read. So I made hundreds of flashcards for both hiragana and katakana, and I carried them everywhere with me. I also read online a lot of short stories in both hiragana and katakana, only so I can get used to reading them faster. Once I was finally able to read these 2 writing systems, I thought, well great, now I can actually start learning Japanese. Well, I was completely wrong, because then I met kanji. At first, kanji looked terrifying. Well, thousands of characters, each with multiple readings, it felt impossible. But instead of avoiding them, I decided to take them on as early as possible. I printed a workbook called The First 103 Kanji, which was a completely free workbook. For grammar, I spent most of my time with the Shahd and I'm textbook. I loved that the book introduced grammar, vocab, and kanji together from the very beginning, so I felt like I was learning to read Japanese instead of just isolated practice. I also tried using the Genki series, but unfortunately, it was not a fit for me. That was when I realized something, that learning Japanese was never about finding the perfect textbook. It was about finding a system that I could stick to for years. So I did. For grammar, I relied on the Try series almost all the way from N5 to N2. I liked that every grammar point came with clear explanations and practice, so I never really felt like I was just memorizing grammar rules. For vocab, reading, and eventually kanji, I used the Nihongo Somatome books. They break down everything into small daily lessons, which made studying feel much less overwhelming. I also think the Nihongo Somatome series is very self-study friendly. Kanji by far was the hardest part of learning Japanese, but it was also my favorite. It's honestly the thing that made me fall in love with Japanese. For kanji, I printed free kanji worksheets that I found online and turned them into my own workbook. I also heavily relied on the app Kanji Study to track down the kanji that I know, the kanji that I've seen before, and honestly, it was the most useful dictionary ever. As I got better, Japanese stopped being something that I studied and started becoming part of my everyday life. I started keeping an entire journal in Japanese. Every day I would write about what happened on that day, how I was feeling, my hobbies, basically anything I could think of. This was my favorite way to practice writing without it feeling like homework. I also started making Japanese friends through the app HelloTalk. It made me really happy when I was actually speaking and having conversations with real people. Whenever grammar started becoming more complicated, especially around N3 and N2 levels, Nihongo no Mori became one of my favorite resources. As my reading improved, I wanted to challenge myself with real Japanese instead of textbook passages. So I picked up books like Hoshi no Oji-sama and Kimi no Na wa manga. They were obviously difficult at first, but every page felt like progress. Listening became part of my routine as well. I'd put on Japanese podcasts whenever I had free time, and my playlist slowly filled up with artists like Eve, Yoasobi, and Yonezu Kenshi. Even when I wasn't actively studying, I was still surrounding myself with the language. By the time I reached N2, I was using books like Shinkansen Masta to prepare for more advanced reading. Looking back though, I don't think any single resource actually got me here. It was actually all the little things. The journal entries, the conversations, the music, the books, the podcasts, that slowly added up over time. 結局、日本語は意味がありました。私の人生を書いてくれたからです。5 years ago, people told me that studying Japanese was pointless. Maybe they were right if all I wanted was another subject to study. Japanese became so much more than that. It never stopped me from getting into medical school. If anything, it taught me discipline, consistency, and how to learn. Japanese introduced me to incredible people, incredible stories, and opportunities I'd never imagined I'd ever have. Today I'm preparing for the JLPT-N2. I'm teaching Japanese at my university. One of my biggest goals is to do an internship in Japan and eventually teach Japanese to even more students. All of that started because a 15-year-old girl decided to learn a language that she thought she'd probably never need. So if there's a language you've always wanted to learn, don't wait until you have a reason. You might discover that learning the language actually becomes the reason. If you like this video, make sure to check out my channel, and if you like my content, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications. My name is Shahd and I'm a third-year medical student going on my 4th year right now. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope I see you around again. I hope you have a great day. Bye bye!